Henry, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's great.
I'm doing
That's great.
fantastic.
Well, just explain to anybody who's tuned in here on our production tonight that we're here with a return visit of Mr. Henry Hill, and it's always a pleasure to have you here. Henry's in Baltimore, has been doing a lot of productions throughout the area over the last few days, and he's finishing up with being a special VIP guest with some of his mob art and doing autographs at the Hustler Club in Baltimore. You were on the news and the Baltimore News this morning. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. I did 5 or 6 different shows in the last 2 days.
Yeah. What have you done the last few days, Henry?
Well, today I did the Danny Bonaducci show in Philly. I did a sports show over at Fox, and Fox Sports, and this tonight.
Yeah. Henry, everybody who knows, who follows films and everything, or who's done a lot of reading, knows that you're the infamous Henry Hill, upon whom the movie Goodfellas was based. It was your story, basically, and also the book Wiseguy was based on your story.
And two other three other books I have out there.
Go ahead. What are they?
I have the Wiseguy, Henry Hill's Wiseguy Cookbook. My latest book is Gangsters and Goodfellas, My Life in Witness Protection, the last 25 years. And a travel guide, Goodfella Guide to New York. It takes you all the spots where all the infamous ex-gangsters, or whatever you want to call them, hung out, drank, shot people, killed people.
Yeah, let me just recap, Henry. Just because we did do one other interview with you. I believe it was around sometime in November of last year when you were down in Baltimore, and just for people to know, you're basically an associate with the Lucchese crime family.
Well, I was. I am.
You were,
yeah.
And of course that was over 25 years ago, 30 years ago,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And finding out that the lives of your family were in danger, you became an informant.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think anybody in their right mind, when they go after your wife and children, I think you make a decision that that's enough. Many years ago, we lived by a certain code, and there was a time in my life I would have put a pistol in my mouth and blew my brains out before I ever thought of being an informant for the FBI. But when I come after, I live by the sword. Mess with me, don't mess with my family. And right after the Lufthansa robbery, they killed 9 guys and 2 of their wives. So I mean, these are not nice people. These are not nice people, and they do anything to survive.
I thought that the La Cosa Nostra had a code, hands off the families.
Would you read that? No.
Well, you tell me, you lived it.
No. Maybe years ago, when a lot of the old timers were alive. But, if they have a little delusion on you, just a delusion, or if their ego is bigger than your ego, and they're going to whack you. I mean, and over greed, money. And that's what most of them got killed over, after the Lufthansa robbery.
We hear a lot about, in popular culture, referring to the mafia, of honor, code, discipline. How much is that fabricated for Hollywood, and what's the reality?
It's all or baloney, whatever you want to call it. It's many years ago, maybe, in little small towns in Italy, people respected other people. Today, they fear you today. I mean, and it's a subculture that, if you haven't been around it and brought up in it, it's very difficult to understand. Very difficult to understand. It's a complete opposite of normality.
Henry, you went under witness protection.
Yes.
How long were you in the witness protection program?
I went in 1980, and officially I was bounced in '87. And I screwed up a couple of times, and I screwed up for the last time. But it was very difficult for me to. I mean, they do a great job. The marshals, the feds. And you're never out of it. I mean, I have a case agent. You know, if he hears something, or someone in New York or Chicago or Florida hears something, I'm notified immediately. You know, from informants or from wiretaps. So they still watch my back.
In other words, have there been threats on your life?
Not lately, not lately.
What would you say the last was?
Oh God, it had to be 7, 8 years ago. And it wasn't even a threat. I ran into two hitmen by Santa Anita Racetrack, and they were more scared than I was. They were on the lam out there in California, and those two guys wound up getting whacked, you know, later on, and they were made guys. But I didn't know it at the time. I walked into this club, and they saw me. I ran one way, they ran the other way. You know.
How did you know? Did you know them from before?
Oh yeah, they were part of our Lucchese family.
Now,
It was just a fluke, you know, that. But I didn't know that, and they didn't know that, you know.
most of these guys you ran with, are most of them on the lam now, or
Every guy that I ran with is dead today. Okay. I have maybe one or two friends, and they're totally legitimate. You know, one's a publisher, and the other one's an attorney. But there's no one. None of my peers from back then that are alive. They're all dead. So I mean, and I didn't mess with anybody else. You know what I mean? The people that tried to hurt me and my family, I had to do what I had to do. And I think any normal person with a half a brain would have done the same thing. And if they wouldn't, I think they're full of baloney.
The character that Robert De Niro plays in the film,
Yeah.
the film ends saying that he was still incarcerated and I believe was getting out early 2000.
Yeah, he was supposed to get out in 2004. He died in 2002.
Oh, okay.
That was Jimmy Burke was his real name.
Correct.
Did he ever get out?
No, he died in the can. He had got convicted for murder after he had finished only one murder. He probably whacked 3 or 4 dozen guys.
Did you ever have communication with him after he went in?
No, absolutely not. Why would I want to talk to those people? There was a $2 million price on my head for a lot of years.
What level of anxiety did that cause for you?
Well, I mean, it's only, I think, normal, when there's a $2 million price on your head, and there's a lot of people pretty upset about what I did. But I mean, I had to survive, and my family had to survive. I lived by the sword. I would have died by the sword. Trust me. And but when they went after my wife, and they would have went after my kids and locked them in the refrigerator, and until I got there, and then they would have killed all of us. It's a fallacy, all of that honor amongst, the mob and all that baloney. It's just, it ain't so. And 3/4 of the guys out there right now are informants. I mean, the laws have changed so much, and the government and even local law enforcement have gotten so hip and so clued in about them, and they flip guys every single day. I mean, John Gotti's underboss testified against him. And that's just one. Guys ain't gonna do a life sentence without parole over some stupid baloney. They're going to open up and flip in a heartbeat.
Some of the main characters of the movie, of course, was yourself, Henry Hill. Mm-hmm. That was who the story was about, your life. Mm-hmm. But also in that you had Joey Pesci played Tommy DeSimone, right?
Correct.
And Tommy DeSimone was really quite a psychopath.
Totally. And, I mean, he whacked over 33 or 34 guys. and used to put notches in his pearl-handled pistols. He had 2 pearl-handled pistols. Every guy he whacked. And then brag about it throughout the city.
And then we also have one of the main characters, of course, who was played by Robert De Niro, was Jimmy Conway in the movie, which was Jimmy Burke.
Correct.
Who was
He was the head of our crew.
Yeah.
You know, there was about 20 guys in our crew. Yeah. You know.
So you were in Jimmy Burke's crew.
Yeah, which was part of the Lucchese family.
Right, part of the Lucchese family, but yet
it's one of the 5 families.
as an associate.
Yeah, I could have never been made.
You could, because you were not full-blooded Italian.
No, my mother was born in Sicily.
Father was Irish.
My dad was Irish. Yeah.
Jimmy Burke was not no
Complete
Italian
Irishman.
blood, so he could not.
He was a full Irishman.
Right. The only one that could have been made was Tommy DeSimone.
And they waylaid him. You know, they whacked him. He was supposed to get made that day, and they made him.
In the movie, he was whacked because of having killed Billy Bat, so a Gambino-made guy. Tell me about that. Tell us the true story.
That's 20% of it. There's a whole between the lines backstory there. Jimmy he went away for 6 years to the feds, and when he come home, he thought he was entitled to all of his bookmaking business, his loan sharking business, and all kinds of other stuff. And there was no way, you know, that he was a Gambino, and we were Lucchese's. There was no way that we would. I mean, it would have come to a head eventually anyway. It just so happened that night, Tommy went a little insane. Well, I mean, it was normal for him, you know, to whack a guy over nothing. But it wasn't over nothing. You know, it would have came down sooner or later either way, or the Gambinos would have whacked Jimmy, and Jimmy knew it.
Now get your shine box. Is that
that totally happened?
That did happen.
So totally happened.
Is that what made Tommy go off?
That was part of it. And everybody was all coked up. They were coked up. Tommy was coked up. You know, and when you're coked up, you know, you're not in your right frame of mind. But it would have happened anyway. I think it would have been done a lot easier. I mean, a lot more needed than it was. Although they knew that he was in my club, the Suite, that night. And, you know, they pounded me for a long time. You know, the Gambinos, come on, we know, we know you know. I know what? I don't know. They left. He was with another friend of ours. And they left the club. I don't know where they went. You know?
Was he whacked in your club?
Yeah. Well, he was supposed to be dead, and he wasn't. He was in...
But, I mean, it was the way it was in the movie.
Absolutely. Right.
You were there.
I was there, yeah. It was me, Jimmy, and Tommy.
Did you actually stop over at Tommy DeSimone's mother?
Absolutely. Pick
You
up
got
a
a
shovel.
bite to eat?
What?
Did you
got a bite to eat. That was Scorsese's mother there.
Yeah, I know. She's quite a lady.
Yes, she passed away recently. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it happened. We had to get a shovel and, you know, some other stuff.
And you went and buried the body?
Yeah, we buried him, then we had to dig him up 6 months later. This was in December, and we put him in a shallow grave. And then the guy, it was a horse ranch. I mean, not a horse ranch. It was a German Shepherd farm. And the guy raised German Shepherds. And then he sold the property, 10 acres or whatever it was, to a condo developer. And we knew that, you know, there was a 80% chance that they would uncover the body, and then that would have been a bigger problem. So we had to dig him up and bury him back in Ozone Park. I mean, it was a disgusting, horrible thing.
Did you dig up Bats once or twice?
Once.
Once.
Yeah, just you know.
And when you buried him the second time, was he at rest? Did they ever dig up the body again?
No.
No. So he's there, and that's it.
Well, you know, you put. Well, he was all mush anyway. You know, when we dug him, it stunk like you couldn't
No,
believe.
what I meant was, did the in your as an informant,
Yeah.
did they go and retrieve any of these bodies that you told
They
about?
attempted to, but when you put a body in the ground and you throw 100 pounds of lime on them, it disintegrates.
Henry, when you dug up the body and talked about the decomposition, that's something most people will never see in their lifetime.
It was very disgusting, and I was sick for a week, and I had to get rid of it was a brand new car. I had to get rid of it. The stink was just, and I couldn't get it out of the car.
Is there any mental effect that, any imagery? Does it stick with you?
I mean, I see it, when it, excuse me. I mean, it's something that, it's a horrible thing. It's something that's, you're never going to forget it. Occasionally it does pop into my head. I don't lose too much sleep over it. Listen, there's a whole lot of stuff I regret from my past, but that's my past. I have to own it. There was a lot of shitty things I did in my lifetime. I never killed anybody. I helped. I was there. I dug holes, but I never whacked nobody. And I could have admitted to 10 murders if I wanted to. I had transactional immunity, which covered everything.
Henry, can you talk about talking about the bar you had, what were some of the other legitimate business you had, and how did they serve as fronts?
Well, the bar I owned was on Queens Boulevard, Forest Hills. There was a real uppity, beautiful area, but it was on our way to the city. It was on Queens Boulevard, which turned into the 59th Street Bridge. And all the wise guys on their way into the city, they'd stop, and on their way home from the city, they'd stop. But mainly it was like a headquarters for the Lucchese family. That place in Robert's Lounge, where they killed the spider.
Talk about later towards in the film. I think the scene so well put together where you're looking at the copter. It's the day of your big arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, one thing that was prominent in that scene is just the level of drug use. Just kind of, there's a scene where you nearly get in a car accident. Can you first talk about what was your usage at that time and what kind of effect that had on you?
Well, I was using quite a bit, and I'd be up for 2 or 3 days, and I would have hallucinations, but that day I had no hallucinations. That helicopter was following me, and it wasn't the first day it was following me, and I knew they were on us, for the Lufthansa robbery, and it was just, oh well, they're tailing me again, let me lose them, and I lost them a couple of times, and then they popped me that night. But I knew, I knew it was at the end of the line. The feds were coming to my house once a week. Every time a couple of bodies would show up, they'd come over my house. They wait for my children to leave for school, and they'd come over my house and show me pictures. You're next. They kept telling me. I said, could I call my attorney, please? You have no right coming in my house and questioning me without my attorney present. And but they planted the seed in my head, you're gonna go, until I heard it on a tape recording. I didn't believe him. I kind of believed him, but I didn't want to believe it.
Tell us about the tape.
It was Paulie and Jimmy talking. We got to whack him. It wasn't much of a conversation.
How did they get their hands on it?
Who, the feds?
Yeah, was there an informant involved to...
No, they had everything, every phone, every phone that had anything to do with us. There was over 100, they had the Port Authority Police, the FBI, everything but the CIA on us. Interpol, locals, after that robbery. It was the biggest cash robbery in the United States history. It's still in the Guinness Book of Records.
When you go up against that kind of force in terms of law enforcement, is there anyone that can survive, that really survives in the game, or does everyone kind of have a tragic ending of some sort?
No, there's guys that didn't get popped, and the whole city knew who did it, who robbed the Lufthansa Airlines. It was known for. We robbed Air France, we robbed Air Italia. We wasn't bipartisan. We hit them all. We took from people at, insurance companies. We didn't take from the little guy.
Tommy DeSimone was going to be made, am I right?
That was a whole roost. He wasn't going to be made. It was a setup to whack him. It was a setup to whack him. And we didn't know nothing about it. I'm sure Paulie was in on it, and Paulie's son was one of the guys that picked him up that morning. And we was in Florida, me and Jimmy. We was on a Fort Lauderdale taking care of something.
Paulie was a captain, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when they had this ruse with Tommy,
Paulie had no love for Tommy. There was he did not care for Tommy at all. And he said, Tommy, Henry, do me a favor, stay away from this kid. He's bad news. He's a loose cannon, stay away from him. And, we did a lot of things together, a lot of scores and stuff, a lot of hijacking, but, Paulie, he knew it was coming. We had no idea, I didn't anyway,
What would you say was the real reason that they got rid of Tommy DeSimone?
There was half a dozen reasons, besides Billy Bats, and he was heavily into drugs. I can go down a list, but, it's senseless. I mean, he had it coming. He had it coming.
Can you tell me the rumor as to who actually put the bullet in him?
Well, I heard it was John Gotti himself. To be perfectly honest with you. How true it is, I don't know. I heard it from Celio Botts, who was he was another guy that testified against Gotti in his first trial.
Was he a Gambino?
Yeah, he was a Gambino. Now he's a movie maker.
Now he's a movie maker?
Yeah, he's just in a movie called The Social Club.
What's the name of it?
The Social Club.
The Social Club.
Yeah, we just finished the screenplay for the Final Four about the Boston College fix.
When do you anticipate the release of that?
Well, we haven't signed any papers yet, but there's some serious interest in it, and it'll go. It's a great story, about the shaving points of 11 games in Boston College. I have a lot of irons in the fire, In the meantime, I stay home. I do my artwork. I make appearances at the house. Terrible job. But they pay me. So.
One question I wanted to ask Henry, another scene that really pops out is, you and I think it's you and Tommy hijack a truck. And I just remember...
We hijacked many trucks.
Yeah, you've got the gun pointed out the window, you're shooting in the air. When you're on a job like that, when you're on a score, when you're carrying drugs, something that, is high octane kind of, is there an adrenaline rush? What's the
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. The whole thing is, planning the score, doing it, getting away with it, and then it's such a letdown. After, after the score, there's such a letdown because I never got popped for, the only thing I got popped for was drugs, and that was my brother. My partner's son gave us up. So go figure.
Now, so you have that adrenaline. Now, on the downtime between the scores, when you're at home, how do you deal with just the low level?
We was out partying. I mean, I was very seldom home. I had a mistress, and we go out and party or gamble or, just do the insane things that it's part of that lifestyle, and it's an addicting lifestyle. It's an addicting lifestyle. If I had it to do over again, I'd become a dentist or a pharmacist and quit smoking.
Are you ever in touch with Karen?
Sure. Constantly.
You have a good relationship with her?
Absolutely. She's a wonderful woman. And my son from my second wife He's 20 years old, he's in college, and he lives with her down in West Palm Beach. She takes care of him just like it's her own son.
How's your relationship with your children?
Great. I just see my 2 children in New York on Monday.
What are they doing, Henry?
I have a son that's an attorney, and my other son is in college, and my daughter has a fantastic job. She's a buyer for Neiman Marcus or Bloomingdale's, one of those stores.
Tell us about the money, Henry. When you're at your peak, what were you looking at?
How much cash did I accumulate at one time in my life?
Yeah. And how
I
that affected
don't know,
your
between $750,000 and $1 million I had on hand. But, I mean, I don't know how much. The government says between $50 and $75 million went through my hands alone. I mean, it was a pretty long stretch. We had a good run. And, I mean, that's what, how much I wound up with. Not that much.
When you have that kind of money and the work that you did, how do you store it? I mean, it doesn't seem like you can bring it down.
Safe deposit boxes, my sister-in-laws, my brother-in-laws, my family members. That's the best place to put it. And I ran out of people to put it in safe deposit.
You had a legitimate club, right?
Yeah.
And Jimmy Burke had a club, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the bocce court.
There's quite a few people planted under there.
That's what I thought. I mean, I read the book Wiseguy, and it mentioned that. Can you name a couple or?
Spider or Remo, just to name a couple. I don't know how many.
They never dug up the bocce court?
I don't know if they did or not, but like I said, you put 50, 100 pounds of lime. Matter of 3 or 4 months, there's nothing there.
Now, Spider was the young kid who was shot by Tommy DeSimone.
Correct, in the club.
Yeah, in the club.
How old was he when he was shot?
He was fairly young. He was, I don't know, his early 20s.
Now, was he just was this like you when you were growing up working for the cabs, or?
No, he was a drug dealer. He was a half a pimp. He wasn't that well liked, And, but he was a pretty good hustler, and no one really cared for him, And
I had heard, Henry, is it true that you got, like, when you were on one of the radio shows, I don't know whether it was a Stern show or whatever, that you got a call from Spider's family or something?
Sure, I got a call from a whole lot of people that, the relatives of people in there. What could I say, like I says, I own my past. I cannot change it. And I am, I feel terrible for, the things that happened to a lot of those people. But I know as being an informant, I know I saved many, many, many lives that would have went by the wayside if I didn't testify against a lot of these animals.
Why don't you tell us about the sauce?
Well, it's not in all the major stores yet. Hopefully, it will be. It's just such a jumping through hurdles to get boss codes, for the government, and we got about 3.5 years invested in it, and a whole lot of money, and hopefully we'll get some investors. And
Is it your recipe, Henry?
Oh yeah, so from all my mother's recipes from my cookbook, and the sauce is excellent. It's organic, and it's it's one of many ventures I have going. My main thing is my artwork. And you can find it on Mob Art on eBay, and and I had a restaurant in Connecticut. There was a little problem with it. We're negotiating an Italian restaurant in Vegas. I don't want to mention any names of any hotel chains, but you got to keep busy. Got to keep the wolves away.
And you got a nice lady taking care of you, Lisa.
She handles all my stuff. And she's fantastic. She really is.
I think you got a real gem there, Henry.
Yeah.
Well,
if I could ask one last question to close, Henry. I think the people that watch Goodfellas, that watch the other mob movies, people watch it for different reasons. One's entertainment for some, one's a historical value, but there's some that idolize the life. For those young people that idolize.
I just, I try to discourage any any youngster even thinking about, going down that path, trust me, it's not worth it. And, I do seminars, I mentor kids, and I try. And if one kid gets it out of 100, it's cool. You know what I mean? That kid may invent the cure for cancer. You never know, And but I try to give back. I do a lot of benefit work, a lot of cancer benefits and stuff like that. I try to do the right thing these days. Sometimes I do it, and sometimes I.
Well, you got to move forward, right?
Absolutely, and I'm blessed. That's all I can say. I'm blessed, and my mother told me she gave me two guardian angels when I was a kid, and I believe it, But I just about wore them two out,